Okay, started. So could you introduce yourself first to my class?
I'm Carson Chow. I'm a principal investigator at NIH.
And you've done modeling for some time. I think your whole career is based in different kinds of modeling.
Yes, I am an applied mathematician, and I've been modeling lots of different things throughout my entire career. So that is correct.
So our cadets are learning about long-term behavior of models, and you had an interesting blog about COVID-19 models. And could you explain why someone would care about the long-term behavior of a COVID-19 model?
Well, long-term can mean various things, but in terms of COVID-19, you want to know how long will this thing last. So people talk about this concept of herd immunity. And what herd immunity means is that when a single person gets infected, how many do they infect before they're cleared? And so if that number is greater than one, then one person will infect more than one, then the pandemic will spread. It'll increase, right? Because it's growing. And if it's less than one, then it'll diminish. So that's what all these social distancing measures and mask wearing, what they're all about, and even vaccines, is to try to get this reproduction number below one. Because once it's below one, it'll start to go away. So then the question is, how do you get below one, right? So even if you didn't do any mitigation whatsoever, as the pandemic grows, you start to run out of people who were not infected. So if you assume that the people that have been infected are no longer susceptible, which is an assumption that may not be true, then the probability of running into a non-infected person by an infected person goes down. And so that you'll hit R naught is, reproduction number less than one eventually. So, so what you need to do is you need to estimate how fast is this thing growing, and, when will you. So the long-term consequences are how long will you reach herd immunity, and how long will even once you've reached herd immunity, it still takes time before the pandemic is gone. So you still have to estimate how long it takes to go away. So the long-term behavior is like, you really need to know in a pandemic is how long will this thing last, and how many people are going to be infected, and how many people are going to die from it. So it's pretty important.
So you mentioned assumptions. Assumptions are one of the most difficult things for us to understand because, I always tell them, I call it modeler's choice. When we put together a model, we have an assumption, and that's kind of the choice of the modeler. And you had mentioned in your blog that one of the assumptions that doesn't seem to appear in many models is the SIS, that you can get reinfected. You kind of mentioned something about that if you actually put in the fact that you can get reinfected, it changes the long-term behavior.
Oh, absolutely. If you can get reinfected, then there's no such thing as an end of the pandemic. I mean, you could, if you just let this thing run, then there's no such thing as herd immunity, because people get infected, it starts to go down, and depending on how long that progresses, by the time it gets down again, the person that first got infected is now susceptible again, can get reinfected, and then you can have a cycle, right? It'll just go on, which is what the seasonal flu and colds are basically cycles, because we do not develop long-term immunity. So flu and cold, we're probably only immune for 6 to 9 months, and that's why every year you get the same cold. I mean, people think they get a different cold every year because, it's mutations, and there are mutations, but actually you can get the exact same cold every year, and you can get the exact same flu every year.
I feel like I get something every year, and it's quite the same. It might be something in my office.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, that the 1918 pandemic, that flu is still circulating around the world as one of the seasonal flus that we get. So it never went away.
That's interesting.
It's just that it's no longer that lethal. So the flu is actually a pretty lethal disease. I think when people say, oh, it's just like the flu, well, the flu is actually pretty dangerous. It's like 0.1% chance of dying if you get the flu. So that's still pretty high.
Well, thank you, and I'm hoping that we do find something that will make it possible to travel, so that we can invite you and host you up at West Point and
Oh, God.
have you take a tour, go to the mess hall, and enjoy some fun things about West Point. We'd love to have you.
Oh, great. Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great.
Well, thank you for letting us talk to you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.